The AI revolution is absolutely here, but it's got a hidden cost, and it is a big one, a colossal, almost unbelievable demand for electricity. Today on The Explainer, we're diving into the White House's new plan to manage this power crunch, and what our sources say is really going on behind the scenes.
So, the administration is pitching this as a way to protect your wallet from skyrocketing electricity bills. But, when you dig into the source material, this isn't just some dry policy debate. It's a deep dive into what one source is calling a massive shell game, a game designed to enrich a very select few.
And let's be crystal clear about the scale of this problem we're talking about. Sources are projecting that by 2030, data centers right here in the US will demand 130 gigawatts of power. To put that in perspective, that's like adding dozens of new cities to a power grid that is already stretched to its breaking point. Look, even President Trump, in his State of the Union, he framed this as a fundamental infrastructure crisis. He basically said, our aging grid just can't handle it, which means we need a totally new way of thinking about this.
So, faced with this massive energy crunch, what is the administration's big idea? Well, they're calling it the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. The core of this plan is pretty simple on the surface. It's a pledge from the hyperscalers, your Amazons, Googles, Metas of the world, promising they'll either build or buy their own power for new AI data centers, instead of just plugging into the public grid like everyone else.
The official policy name for this is Bring Your Own Generation, or BYOG for short. The idea is to stop these trillion-dollar tech companies from socializing their gigantic energy costs, which would force you, the public, to foot the bill through higher rates. Sounds like a fair deal, right?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. Several analyses we looked at in our source material say we need to look much, much closer at how this pledge actually works, because what it doesn't cover might just be more important than what it does.
Okay, now we are getting to the absolute heart of it. A source known as Hunter AGI doesn't just critique this policy, it flat out calls it a grid scam. Their analysis alleges this has nothing to do with protecting consumers. Instead, they claim it's a carefully designed mechanism to funnel public money straight to private corporations. So, the first major critique, it all revolves around the central loophole in the plan. It's really about the difference between making power and delivering it. Now, this slide is fascinating because it breaks down the loophole perfectly. The pledge makes tech companies pay for the fuel. That means the new power plants. But here's the catch. The public still pays for the entire delivery system. That's the wires, the substations, all the grid upgrades, and, crucially, the backup power needed to keep the lights on for everyone. And the cost of those wires, well, it's just astronomical. We're talking about $2 trillion in necessary grid upgrades. According to this critical view, the pledge very cleverly leaves that entire $2 trillion bill for the public to pay. And this image, it really gets to the core of the issue, doesn't it? The pledge focuses on just one piece of the puzzle, the new power plants, while completely ignoring the vast, aging, and incredibly expensive network that's supposed to get all that power from point A to point B. The Hunter AGI source alleges this loophole is no accident. It's a deliberate design. And they actually map out exactly how they believe the money flows in this whole setup. So, the source describes this as a 4-step pipeline. It kicks off with energy donors who are looking for guaranteed long-term contracts. Then, the AI power crunch is used as the public excuse to hold these so-called emergency auctions, locking in 15-year revenue streams for these donors to build plants they already wanted to build anyway. And believe it or not, the financial impact is already hitting us. In PJM, the country's largest grid, these things called capacity prices, which is basically the fee we all pay just to make sure power is available when we need it, have spiked by nearly 1,000% in just 2 years. And let me be clear, this isn't some small market fluctuation. According to market watchdogs cited in the sources, a staggering $23 billion in recent capacity costs within that one market, PJM, are directly tied to this surge in data center demand. The sources literally call this a massive wealth transfer from households to power generators. So what does all this lead to? Well, critics argue it's leading to the creation of a dangerous two-tiered energy system in America. One for them and one for us.
A really key example highlighted in the documents is this Amazon Susquehanna deal. In this case, Amazon didn't even build a new power plant. It just bought the entire output of a huge existing nuclear plant. It basically privatized 2 gigawatts of existing public power, taking it off the grid for its own exclusive use. And here is the result, a split system. Tier 1 is for the tech giants. They get exclusive access to super reliable power, and they get to use our public grid as their free backup insurance. Tier 2, well, that's for everyone else. An overstressed grid, higher bills, and less reliable energy. Because of all these loopholes, critics argue the pledge is basically unenforceable. They're calling it a theatrical stunt, a handshake deal that provides absolutely no real legal protection for consumers. They say it's more of a PR move than actual concrete policy. So, after all of that, where do we actually land? Let's put the official story right next to the critical view we've pulled from our sources. So on one side, you have the administration presenting this as an innovative plan, where tech pays its own way. And on the other, you have this critical analysis portraying a regulatory bypass, where the public funds the infrastructure, takes on all the risk, and gets left with a stressed-out, more expensive system.
So the question the source material really leaves us with is this. Is the Ratepayer Protection Pledge a genuine plan to power the future, or is it the blueprint for one of the biggest wealth transfers in American history, a multi-trillion-dollar shell game where all the profits are privatized and all the risk lands squarely on you?